Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know It, the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dale Minyo. Over the weekend, we got a little rain, 1/100th of an inch. It was enough to get you wet if you were outside. As we look to Friday's numbers from USDA's World Ag Supply and Demand Estimate, the Ohio version, Ohio corn and soybean producers expect lower corn and soybean yields this year because of abnormally dry conditions that plagued the state this summer, according to Ben Torrance, state statistician, USDA's NAS Ohio field office. The October crop production reports based on conditions as of October 1. Some of the highlights: Ohio expects corn yield to come in 15 bushels down from last year at 183 bushels per acre. Total production forecast at 580 million bushels, down 14% from last year. Ohio's soybean production is expected to total 262 million bushels, down 5% from last year. The yield is forecast at 52 bushels per acre, down 6 bushels from a year ago. On the national scene, 15.2 billion bushels of corn is expected. That is less than 1% below the previous forecast, but down 1% from a year ago. Based on conditions, again, October 1, yield is expected to be 183.8 bushels per acre, up 0.2 of a bushel from the previous forecast, and up 6.5 bushels from last year. Area harvested for grains forecast at 82.7 million acres, unchanged from the previous forecast, but down 4% from a year ago. Record high yields are forecast in Illinois, Iowa, Louisiana, Michigan, Nebraska, New York, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. And when it comes to the 2024 soybean production for beans, it's forecast at a record 4.58 billion bushels, up 10% from that of a year ago, with the national average yield expected to be 53.1 bushels per acre. Down 0.1 bushel from the previous forecast, but up 2.5 bushels from a year ago. Area harvested for beans in the U.S. is forecast at 86.3 million acres, unchanged from the previous forecast, but up 5% from a year ago. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Dry weather dominates over a large chunk of the Buckeye State. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at that Ohio Ag Weather Update. A wide open harvest window is what we've got here over the next 10 days. I don't see any significant moisture trying to come down. We do see a disturbance trying to move through Michigan late this weekend into early next week on the backs of some cold air. Cold Canadian air wants to break free in the Canadian prairies coming across the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. That probably triggers some on-again, off-again cloud cover and light spits of rain. But I only think that we're dealing with cloud cover in northern tier counties of Ohio. We are chilly to start next week, or at least cooler. Maybe not dramatically chilly, but cooler before temperatures bounce right back. No rain in my forecast for the entire state here as we move forward. I think we see excellent dry down, well above normal temperatures over most of the period. The cool start to next week notwithstanding. Upper level ridge and high pressure back to our west is steering most activity to our north and far away. We also have a tropical system, Milton. It's going to impact Florida here this week, but a lot of times tropical systems just back up the overall flow pattern across the rest of the country, so that keeps us in the dry here as well. So a great harvest forecast. Be safe. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Joining me is Mike Bailey, Senior Vice President of Operations and Partnerships for the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation. And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to talk about a program that already has some history, but been modified to become better for participants. It's the Ohio Farm Bureau Energy Savings Program. What is it?
At its core, it's got two key components. The first is how we can help our members lower energy costs, specifically opportunities to manage their supply rates for electricity and natural gas on their farm and on their residential area as well. So that's the first part, is lowering energy costs through supply rates. And then the second component of the Energy Savings Program is how do we help our members lower their energy usage? And that really then gets us into conversations about energy efficiency projects. And what we can do and what we are doing is helping our members identify grants and incentives to help them implement energy efficiency projects. So who's eligible, Dale? Number one is you have to be a member of Ohio Farm Bureau to participate in these programs. And we know as we look at the value that Ohio Farm Bureau offers its members that we can help them gain a competitive advantage through all of our offerings. And in this space, true business solutions of saving energy costs at the farm gate. They matter a lot in good times. They sure do matter a lot too in tougher times like we're seeing out there now with lower yields, lower prices. So these are tremendous energy savings opportunities. So you got to be a member of Ohio Farm Bureau. And also for our energy supply rates that we can help you save on, if you're currently serviced by an Ohio Electric Co-op, you're getting the best deals possible. So you will not be eligible for these if you're in a rural electric co-op. Really, the focus of these is helping you as a member save in Ohio if you're currently serviced by a utility region in Ohio. If you're serviced by AEP, Columbia Gas, Duke Energy, all of those utilities regions, that's where you're eligible to apply for these programs through the Ohio Farm Bureau Energy Savings Program.
Mike, the easiest way to link to it is ofbf.org?
That's correct.
And thanks, Mike. With traders looking for a slight decline in yield from the September report, the October World Ag Supply and Demand estimate instead reported a 0.2 bushel per acre gain to a record 183.8. That led to a crop of 15.203 billion bushels. The season average price for corn was left untouched at $4.10 a bushel. On the soybean side of things, the average season price for beans was left unchanged at $10.80. And we already got to some of those numbers. We'll leave the stocks information to Ryan Martin coming up. Also, U.S. wheat production was decreased by 11 million bushels. Imports were raised 10 million, and feed and residual use rose by 10 million bushels, while exports were left unchanged. Their final thoughts: the October World Ag Supply and Demand Estimate report came and went without a lot of fanfare. The report came in fairly close to the pre-report expectations, and once the report was over, traders seemed to focus again on weather and harvest. Perfect weather in the heart of the Corn Belt ensures a rapid harvest pace, and in Brazil, the midday weather forecast showed much better rain chances. In wheat, there are some hard red winter rain chances near October 20th and better rain chances for dry areas of southern plains, eastern Ukraine this coming week. And fueled by another outstanding performance from Mexico, August exports of U.S. pork increased year over year, according to data released by USDA. The U.S. beef exports were below a year ago levels in August, while lamb exports trended higher, posting the largest volume since January. Now, August pork exports totaled 238,989 metric tons, up 6% from a year ago, but the second lowest of 2024. Export value increased 8% to $702.9 million. In addition to the strong results in Mexico, exports trended higher in Central and South America, the Caribbean, and the Asian region. August shipments to Malaysia were record large, while exports to Colombia achieved a value record. The beef exports totaled 102,682 metric tons in August, down 6% from a year ago, and the lowest since January. Export value fell 4% to $845.9 million. Mexico's demand for U.S. beef remained robust in August, while exports also trended higher to Taiwan, the Middle East, and the Asian region. But these results were offset by lower shipments to Japan, South Korea, and China, Hong Kong. Through the first 8 months of the year, beef exports were 3% below last year at 856,834 metric tons, but were 4% higher in value at just under $7 billion. Beef demand in our major Asian regions seemed to lose a bit of momentum in August, but exports held up to Mexico, Taiwan, and the Middle East. The headwinds in Asia remain formidable, but we are encouraged by the region's ongoing tourism rebound. Back with more after this.
Did you know soybeans' #1 customer is animal agriculture? That includes Ohio's pig farms. Soybeans provide a blend of protein and energy to keep Ohio pig farms growing. Nationally, Ohio ranks 7th in pork production, and those pigs consume 6.3 million metric tons of soybean meal. It takes a lot of soybeans to make that kind of bacon. Soybeans feeding the industry that feeds us. Brought to you by the Ohio soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Soybeans grown in Ohio and across the heartland are meeting the feedstock demand for clean fuels. Biodiesel is a clean-burning and reliable fuel that enhances engine life, power, and mileage. Plus, this high-performance fuel works in any diesel engine without modification. With biodiesel, we fuel the economy, do good for the environment, and support soybean farmers. Learn how using biodiesel can add value to every bushel of soybeans grown at soyohio.org. The Ohio Soybean Council is working with The Ohio State University to address a significant issue impacting soybean crops across Ohio this season. Prolonged drought conditions, particularly in southern Ohio, followed by heavy rainfall from Hurricane Helene, have caused a range of problems for soybean farmers. These include pod shattering, premature seed sprouting, and black fungal growth on pods and stems. These conditions are creating significant challenges for harvest, particularly for farmers dealing with extreme dry seed or plant material that retain leaves, further delaying harvest timing. The compromised seed coats and abnormal moisture levels are contributing to premature germination and making crops more susceptible to fungal infections. To help address these issues, they're asking and requesting that farmers experiencing any of these symptoms send affected soybean samples to Dr. Horacio Lopez Nicora at OSU Soybean Pathology and Nematology Lab. By collecting these samples, further research can be conducted to better understand the scope of the problem and provide guidance on managing it. Time now for the Louis Dreyfus Grain Analysis, brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets had a rough finish to the week last Friday. Red on the screen everywhere. We're kicking off a new week, hoping for a little bit of a bounce back. But let's take a look at most of the reason behind last Friday's falling off. We had October's supply and demand report. It was just another in a string of very unexciting releases. Now, recall, I think I told you that was going to happen. I just didn't see much happening in this report, but let's talk about what did pop up. Adjustment to the U.S. and world supply and demand estimates largely matched expectations. The focus is returning now immediately to improving world weather forecasts and harvest pressure here in the United States. Late last week, U.S. models had an expansion of Brazilian rainfall in the 6 to 15-day period. Better rain chances also projected across eastern Ukraine and southern Russia here this week, at least today through Thursday. And now the U.S. model is in better alignment with the European and other models in projected soaking rainfall across the plains in the later this week, early next week time frame. That's important for wheat, and so that is something that we really pay attention to. To the supply and demand report, corn yield was raised about 0.2 of a bushel to 183.8. Ending stocks cut 58 million bushels as lower carry-in supplies, which were known, and a 25 million bushel hike in projected exports was more than offset by the production increase. The notes that are additional yield are common in November when yield raised in both September and October, so we'll have to see what happens next month. But again, I'm not expecting a whole lot. Total 24-25 supply in Argentina and Brazil were increased to combined 3.6 million metric tons. Importantly, the WASDE trimmed the 24-25 Chinese imports by 2 million metric tons following China's absence from the Brazilian market in late summer and early August. Soy yield lowered gently 0.1 of a bushel per the acre. Production was trimmed to 4 million bushels. Ending stocks untouched. So that was the story of last Friday's report. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. I'll have the overnight figures after this.
AmeriHealth Caritas Ohio is your Medicaid plan for more. More benefits, more rewards. We know that good health means more than just seeing a doctor when you're sick. Eligible members can receive extras like home-delivered meals and family essentials, like baby carriers and kids' school supplies. Members can even earn rewards for playing mobile health trivia games. Learn more at AmeriHealthCaritasoh.com and call the Ohio Medicaid Consumer Hotline at 1-800-324-8680 to choose AmeriHealth Caritas Ohio.
Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. On the overnight, December corn down 2 at $4.13 3/4. March down 2 at $4.31. November beans $10 1.5 down 4. January down 3.5 at $10.17.5. On the wheat, December down 5 1/4 at $5.93 3/4. July down 7 at $6.32.5. October cattle down 57 at $188.60. December down 70 cents at $187.57. October lean hogs up a nickel at $84.07. December 77.65 up 70. November feeder cattle $249.80 down 15 cents. Thanks for joining us. This is the Ohio AgNet.